Hi, guys.
Cool. The camera on here. Hey, everyone. My name's Andy Gustafson. Also, Susie here. Hi, Susie.
Guys, I'm
Um,
Susie Liberty.
yeah, just a quick introduction. FYI, this event will be recorded and will be available to play back at a later time. So just keep that in mind. If anyone want to forward this on to anyone else after the fact, we'll have that available to be able to send out. So quick introduction. My name's Andy Gustafson. I am the program manager for the AESAP program with PG&E. I'm a director here with TRC, engineering background, and program manager right now. Susie, you want to give a quick introduction?
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Susie Leray. I'm a project manager here at TRC. Years of energy efficiency background, and I'm now focusing on the CEA sector.
Great. So real quick before we get into the slides, I just want to highlight real quick. So what is a trade ally, and how would a trade ally work with our program? So at a high level, like our trade ally is like a network partner with our program. This could be someone that's a vendor, an installer, or any other individual or group participating with programs, or customers with retrofitting or installing equipment who's interested in additional resources related to incentives and services for customers for upgrades and installations. So how to be more closely involved with our program. As being listed on a trade ally, you'll be on our email list for communications, for program updates, changes, new offerings. So we have a couple of changes that are happening in the next month, which we're going to highlight on here. So it's just a way to be part of a closer network with our program and be able to have additional resources and knowledge at your fingertips for when engaging with customers. So hope that helps. Feel free to ask questions in the chat menu. I think all the folks are muted right now, but feel free to ask questions in the chat menu. And then we'll try to answer those as we go through, and we'll definitely have a chunk of time at the end of this hour here to answer any additional questions that might come through that we weren't able to answer during the slides. So, all right. Turn up a camera here to help with some bandwidth. So let's get going. Okay, so real quick, so the program presentation is going to cover what the program is, some objectives and services. We're going to touch base on rebate and custom measures, financing options, some demand side management support, how to apply, and contact Q&A. So what is AESAP? So the TRC's Agricultural Energy Savings Action Plan, that's what AESAP stands for. We offer incentives and financing options for customers for energy saving projects. This can involve retrofit or installation of energy consuming equipment. So it could be adding on equipment, retrofitting existing, adding new equipment that's more efficient than would have otherwise been considered. All those qualify for our program and services and incentives and financing related to that. So we comprehensively serve all the segments within PG&E's agricultural sector. So if you're familiar with the NAICS codes, it's all the 1.1 NAICS codes for the agricultural sector. We also serve breweries, wineries, and distilleries with our program. We are like to think of ourselves as a one-stop shop for customers, doing calculating savings, processing incentives, providing support, technical assistance for customers for projects related to energy efficiency. Like mentioned, we also provide some demand side management support, coordinating with other programs with PG&E with demand response and other things to help try to highlight the benefits for customers on those DSM type programs and offerings and how they might pair well with energy efficiency. Our services are at no cost to customers whatsoever. Our contract is pre-funded through PG&E. We will not cost the customer anything at any time. The major sectors in the agricultural sector and the program that we serve includes crop production, controlled environmental horticultural projects like greenhouses, indoor growing, breweries, wineries, and distilleries, dairy and livestock are some of the major sectors that our program serves. Services, what we offer. So we conduct detailed technical studies. We'll go out to a customer site, help identify and evaluate energy saving measures and opportunities. We quantify those energy savings. So we'll often go out to a customer site. If they have no idea on what they're interested in and looking at, we will ask questions and try to get a better idea, walk the facility, get some ideas of potential opportunities, and do a high-level savings analysis on where there's some good opportunities. If there's interest in specific measures with customers, we then dive much deeper and put together full detailed technical studies and reports and calculations to quantify the opportunity and help facilitate the project through for incentives with the program or financing options. We also do the savings verification. That includes going out to the site, doing measurement and verification to quantify the energy savings and also verify the savings after it's installed. These are often tailored specific to the energy efficiency measure that's that's in question in this type of opportunity here. We also do financial incentives. That's a big part where we get most of the interest from customers, is obviously cutting them a check for projects that save energy or qualify with PG&E. We have rebates and custom incentives. We'll dive a little bit into each of those. And these are for electric and gas incentives for PG&E territory. So if you pay electric, if the customer pays electric or gas utility with PG&E, the projects could qualify for incentives for both those commodities there. We also offer financing support. So on-bill financing has been very popular with customers, and we'll touch base on that. You can get up to $4 million of funding with 0% interest through PG&E. Energy savings from the measure pay off those loans on the bill. So once the project's installed, you get a check cut for the loan amount, and the energy savings would pay that off. There's also some private financing available as well that we'll touch base on. So what are the major platforms types that we offer for a program? Rebates is one. It's a prescriptive type rebate, which we'll touch on the next slide. There's custom incentives, and then finally financing. So we'll dig a little bit into each of those here in a second. So what is a rebate measure? So a rebate is a prescriptive measure. It has predefined savings, cost, eligibility, and measure attributes related to that specific measure. It's paid based off of a dollar per unit basis. So that could be you get a set rebate per horsepower of a rating for a VFD, for example, or it could be per dollar of unit of insulation installed. So things like that. It's a predefined savings. It does not require program pre-approval. Typically, we would just get a copy of the invoice for that and additional documentation required for that measure. And then we would cut a check for that rebate measure after it's verified, after it's installed, verified, and then everything's closed out. So there are certain requirements and eligibility for the measures on rebate type of platform measures. It must be on a CPUC approved work paper. So all the rebates in our catalog are through CPUC approved work papers. Customers must pay the public purpose program surcharge. It's on their bill. If you get a blue bill or a monthly bill, a customer gets one of those, you'll see that PPP surcharge on there. That is a requirement for being able to participate with rebates or incentives. The customer must also submit the application with required documentation within 60 days of either purchase, installation, or account activation. So example might be if a customer ordered, say, a VFD, but the equipment is not operational or live until a certain date. Whichever is later, the 60-day clock starts ticking then. So we need to make sure we get everything submitted within 60 days in order to qualify. There is an exception process in place if there's a justifiable reason of why we weren't able to make that 60 days, but that is in place there. Just please, we need to make sure we're mindful of the 60-day requirement there. You also must adhere to all the specific requirements for the measure, and those are highlighted in our rebate catalog. So what is the rebate catalog and how do you find it? So here's a little snapshot of our rebate catalog and a little blurb from the inside. But to find it, you can go to our website. It's agenergysavings.com. And then under the programs page, you'll find the rebate catalog. If you ever get a copy of a rebate catalog, say at like you know, a expo or something else, I still would highly recommend going to the website because it has the latest catalog with requirement changes and or latest offerings that are on there. A lot of our collateral has a QR code. You can scan that and it'll take you straight to the latest rebate catalog, or just go straight to our website. Real quick, a quick blurb on the rebate measures we offer for a catalog. We have ag, well, and booster VFD pumps, pump VFDs. This one is one of our more popular measures we offer. We offer $50 per $90 per horsepower, rated horsepower for the motor the VFD is getting installed on. There's different tiers, and we'll dig a little bit into that a little bit more too. There's glycol pump VFDs for say like wineries. You can get $1,000 to $5,000 per unit installed. There's ag ventilation fan VFDs for say like dairy fans, putting in fans up to 48 inches for $100 per horsepower on those. So the VFDs can be tied to like multiple fans, so the total horsepower tied to that VFD, you get $100 per horsepower. Ag ventilation fans themselves, we have rebates $200 per unit for replacing fans up to 48 inches. We're also working to expand that offering up to 84-inch fans as well, still in the works. Dust collection fan VFDs, offerings for dust collection, you can put VFD on there and get $300 to $16,000 per unit. So these are some recently added new measures as of within the last few weeks, actually. Pipe installation, this is not a new rebate offering, but new to our program. We can offer $4 per foot or per fitting for pipe installation. For say supplemental heat at greenhouses, you might have some steam installation, we can offer $4 per foot on there. Greenhouse heat curtains and greenhouse infrared films, these are also new measures that are recently added. And also there's a boiler measure as well. I do want to highlight that many of our rebates are 50% or greater than historical PG&E rebate values, so there is some benefit. An example like the pipe installation here, PG&E typically offers $3 per foot, but we can offer $4 per foot. So I think there might be some BES account reps on the line as well. It's just another highlighting you know, option or benefit for our program. Outside of that, we're here to help process and do everything for getting these through for approval. So we're here to help. I'll just do a quick example here on say a dairy fan and VFD rebate. So this shows a little blurb from our rebate catalog. So you can get $200 per unit. And then also the fan VFD, you get 1 to 3 horsepower, you for $100 rate per rated horsepower. In this particular instance here, a customer saved over 200,000 kWh savings for putting 148-inch fans in with VFDs. They saved over $30,000 per year at a cost of about $75,000, and they were able to get a cash rebate for $30,000. So this is a rebate example where they just, no pre-approval, went ahead, put it in, we cut them the check after it was installed. If for fans that might not be in this size limit, say larger fans until we get the work paper expanded, it still qualifies for a custom incentive. But just wanted to highlight that there, but this is a rebate example for dairy fans and VFDs. I also wanted to spend a few minutes diving into ag pump VFDs, take a little deep dive into those, since this is one of our more popular measures, and we have a lot of vendors and partners that are helping submit applications through our program. So for a VFD on an ag pump, this could be for a new construction new pump or retrofit add-on, adding a VFD on an existing pump. You can get $50 per $90 per horsepower, depending on the tier of VFD. Standard VFDs are for 25 to 300 horsepower. There's a mid-tier and enhanced VFD option that goes up to 600 horsepower. So if you're going above 300 horsepower, we really need to make sure that it qualifies under the mid and enhanced tier VFDs that are specified here and also in our rebate catalog. So for the higher mid-tier and enhanced, it must comply with the ITRC.org VFD specifications. These are the same specifications that's been in place for years. I know many are familiar with it, but if there's any confusion on what may qualify or otherwise, we're here to help. Our contact information will be at the end. You can always contact me directly or Susie or a larger program contact page, and we'll help you through the process. Also, the pump installer or pump company, they must provide a statement acknowledging that these requirements are being met. There's a documentation that gets included. It's spelled out in the rebate requirement, and then that gets included with that. So requirements for a pump VFD for ag well or booster pump. The VFD must be able to adjust the operation to meet pressure or flow, not just a soft start or cavitation control, for example. It must be able to have a means to vary the flow. So say if like the existing pump has a throttle valve or control valve, that would be an application we want to put a VFD on there, qualify for it. It must have at least 1,000 hours per year. So the customer must be able to confirm or acknowledge that, yes, we acknowledge this pump will be operating for 1,000 hours per year, anticipated in the next year. Must be able to state that that will be met. It must be a pressurized irrigation system. So this includes like, drip irrigation. You can't have flood irrigation. It can't be just filling a reservoir, for example. You must have an electrically operated booster pump in place or well pump in site, or plan to install a new one. So it must be a booster well pump on electrically operated there. It can't, once again, it can't be used to fill a reservoir, and it can't be just openly discharging into a canal or mixed flow type operation. And once again, these requirements are all in that rebate catalog, just kind of putting it here for just a little bit of a review and a recap. A little bit of, this is a major change that's happening with the program, and a main point of why we wanted to, one of the major points of why we wanted to have this meeting is to help identify change coming, which is as of June 1st, the standard tier VFDs will be required to meet harmonics special power quality and harmonics distortion requirements as specified here in this link. The customer, and for the next step related to that is a customer must be signing and agreeing or be able to sign an agreement of understanding stating compliance to one of these options. So come next month, if we get a standard VFD application, we will be falling back with the customer asking them to state and sign that one of these requirements has been met. The three requirements are as follows. So basically, you can read them here, but at a high level, there's three options. The first option is the VFD must be built in a panel shop with a harmonic filter as specified here. The second option would be it'd be manufactured, the VFD is manufactured already to produce low harmonics. And the third option would be that the customer had the VFD installed and certified by a registered engineer to be compliant with these requirements. So the customer must be able to sign and acknowledge and state that one of these is being met in order to qualify after June 1st. If you have a project where, say, something's already been purchased, but it's not going to be operational by this date, please contact us right away. Like we mentioned, there is an exception request exception process in place, and we want to make sure the customers are whole here and doing what we can to make sure, reasonably, that we're helping meet customer needs with this change here. So if you do identify any projects or opportunities where VFDs might be in place, please let us know so we can talk through those. But after June 1st, if we haven't been able to show, say if a VFD is purchased after June 1st and these requirements are not being met, it's going to be a very tough sell being able to allow it if one of these requirements is not being met for a standard VFD. Digging a little bit deeper into harmonics distortion. So why should folks even care about harmonic distortion? So a couple things to highlight is like equipment can operate incorrectly. So say if like equipment relies on power system frequency. So say if like clocks or say irrigation equipment is related to the frequency, that could actually impact and mess with the equipment. So irrigation equipment can go off track. Harmonics can also produce more heat than normal for electricity, for equipment, and so equipment life could be shortened as well. So there is some benefits to customers for trying to meet and reduce harmonics issues. But at a larger level, this push is really coming from some major harmonics and power quality issues that is on the grid right now related to these, a lot of them being driven by these standard VFDs. So the PG&E and our program are taking a step to try to mitigate and reduce the distortion and major concerns we're seeing with power quality issues on the grid related to these standard VFDs. So if you have more questions related to harmonic distortion or just questions in general, you can reach out to PG&E or you can reach out to myself or our team directly, and we'll make sure we put you in touch with a power quality or harmonics specialist with PG&E to help answer further questions. If there's also any questions related to how this will impact projects moving forward, in the Q&A in the last few minutes of the meeting or in the future, feel free to reach out and we'll be able to help you there. A quick example here on a pump VFD rebate. So you could see the different tiers here from our catalog. So on this example here, a customer put a VFD on a 100 horsepower well pump. They're able to save $25,000 kWh, or about a cost savings about a little over $5,000 per year. Cost them $11,000, and it was about a 13-month payback with a $5,000 rebate. So give you an idea of example of a rebate. What's the rebate process? And related timeline. The first part of it's really user defined, or customer defined. So the customer installs equipment, make sure it qualifies. We can help their requirements on our catalog. Application submitted, or you send us an invoice, and then we'll work to submit that application through. We'll follow back with some paperwork to be signed, and then we'll close out that project. The process usually takes 1 to 2 months once we receive everything we need to be able to cut a check for a customer, typically. If it doesn't qualify for a rebate, you can submit for a custom incentive. So for everything that might not fall under there, there's an option for custom incentive. These are for projects, just to give a couple examples here. It could be overhauls, larger VFD size fans that might be larger, process type related type upgrades, anything really that could save energy and follow statewide program rules could qualify for a custom incentive. Unlike the rebates, it does require pre-approval, so we'll touch base on that here. So what is it? A measure, so custom measure is where the financial incentive and energy savings are determined based on a site-specific analysis. So we would actually do an analysis to quantify the energy savings, like an engineering analysis, and the incentive is roughly based around the incentive would be roughly paid based on the unit of kWh and therm savings, but we do have the ability to tweak that incentive to meet customer needs and specific requirements. So it does require pre-approval. You can't just, a customer can't just move forward or purchase equipment until we have a pre-approval with PG&E. So that's very key. Once again, must pay the PPP. One key difference is we have to show and document proof of program influence, which we'll touch base on the next slide. And there's certain laws and codes we must require and other guidance and decisions that we follow. But that's what we're here to help, to make sure that options are being identified and helped push through our program and helping customers with that along the way. So what is program influence? We talk a lot about it and highlight the importance of it, but it really is required for successful custom incentive projects. So if you're working with a customer and you're trying to guide them towards an incentive that isn't a rebate project, we have to show program influence. Otherwise, we will not get program approval or utility approval. So what are some of those key things that we need to work through? And this is where our program comes in. We meet early on with customers. We help, a big part of that is us helping identify the opportunity and or options available to a customer, showing that we're helping guide the customer towards the best choice and option for them. So we would do technical analysis to show paybacks for each of those options and help guide them towards an option that makes the most sense with an incentive assistance there to help guide them and motivate them to go to a more efficient option. So helping identify those options, like I said, energy savings and incentives tied to that, helping highlight that, being involved with a customer decision-making process to help guide them towards it, helping them before they decide what they want to do. That's key for this. Investment criteria, do they need a 2-year payback or some other dollar amount need to help offset costs? Is that required for a customer able to move forward? All that with incentive support can help prove program influence, and we have to document this along the way through email, meeting minutes, other things to have a successful project. What the customer would do absent of the program, so highlighting that, and then ultimately the non-energy benefits related to that as well. What's the process for a custom incentive? At a high level, just reach out to us as early as possible. We'll guide you through the whole thing, but we do have to do an assessment. We need to identify the opportunities, put together the analysis on that, and then ultimately go through for an application. This can take several months depending on how much back and forth working with vendors, getting specs, information on the equipment in order to put together an engineering calculation. It really depends on a lot of things, but it could take a few months. Once the customer installs it, sorry, step back there. Once we go through the application process, we need that pre-approval. So making sure we have approval by the utility to proceed and by us to proceed. Then the customer would start the installation. We would then verify it after the fact. And then once it's verified and we do the post-install review and approval, we would issue the incentive check on that. Once it's verified, once it's installed and done, we do the M&V, it's typically a couple-month review in the post. So it's a longer process for sure. But many of the custom incentive opportunities are much higher dollar value incentives compared to rebates. So there's definitely a benefit on working through the challenges and requirements for a custom incentive process. Quick example here for, say, a winery. We have a facility that we did a floating head pressure control that we're saving about half a gig, 500,000 kWh savings. The project cost was relatively low compared to the energy savings of only about $35,000. They got a $17,000 incentive and the payback was only a couple months. So it was a great opportunity. There's also some other opportunities on the right that we often see with wineries as well highlighted. But it gives you an idea of like some of the opportunities for a custom incentive. And now I'm going to turn it over to Susie to talk about horticultural lighting, since it's also another popular custom incentive offering, and she'll touch base on that and go over some details related to that.
Awesome.
Susie, you there?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Andy. Yeah, so like Andy was saying, so there are not standard or prescriptive rebates available for horticultural lighting, but there are custom incentives, and those can be quite substantial. That does mean those have to go through the custom pre-approval process. So again, please reach out to us as early as possible if you have a potential project. Again, we can handle all of that, documentation, admin work for you, as long as you're putting us in contact with the customer early on. There are going to be some changes coming to qualified products. Products do need to be on the new DLC. So 5.0 will be accepted until June 30th. But really, if you have any question about if something is qualified or not, feel free to just reach out to us and we can verify that for you. And then please be also aware that if we're looking at new load projects, expansion, things like that, I know a lot of growers in the Salinas Valley are waiting for power upgrades and things like that. So those service planning upgrades can add to the project timeline. In general, we want to direct customers to be signing into the portal that's now available, linked here, and that way they can be staying right on top of what's going on with their power without having to ask their PG&E account manager all the time.
Susie, I hope you don't mind. One other thing I just want to make sure you highlight is the Title 24 changes are coming next year. So there's going to be specific efficacy requirements for fixtures starting next year, which will reduce claimable savings and potential incentives for a lighting project. So just want to stress the urgency with customers or those folks on the call that might be interested in horticultural lighting custom incentives. Please reach out as soon as possible so we can start the application process now, because if we can go through the review, get an incentive approved this year, we'll get that incentive rate and savings locked in for you this year, even if you install next year. We want to get ahead of it and try to capture that as soon as we can to maximize incentives.
Yeah, that's a great point, Andy. I know that the standard practice, the industry baseline is going to be changing to LEDs. So while there may still be some incentives available, depending on the customer's current practice, it is going to be more of a challenge, and they're likely going to be reduced. So yeah, if you have a customer who's on the fence or thinking about it, please let us, get in touch with them and help see if we can offer that funding to motivate them to get moving now.
Okay.
Awesome. So what do we need in order to get an incentive estimate together? So say you're putting us in touch with the customer early on, we're getting involved early. We need to know what are their baseline existing fixtures, either what they were planning to do without program influence, if it's new load or expansion, or what do they have right now. Their equipment needs to be operational as always. We need to know the number of LED fixtures they're planning on installing. So, you know, those incentives will be based on that quantity that is installed rather than their existing quantity. So that's really important to know. We need to know, you know, is the canopy growing area? What are those hours of operation? Again, lighting, you know, controls, and controls is something that can certainly change that. So we need to be aware of either HPS existing lighting or you know, what that current practice is, and then how they'd be and using the, if they're adding controls, how they'd be using that. We would be doing measurement and verification generally after the fact. So just that, larger projects, that cost of electricity, that's easily, you know, available to get once we have the account number. And then, you know, again, get us involved early on if they're, you know, weighing their options between different features, trying to hit a certain PPFD. You know, let us assist with that technical analysis, and we can help. And okay, a lot about lighting. So what are some other, because that can really significant incentives. We also have some new recent additions that Andy was mentioning to the rebate catalog. Interest. Thermal curtains is something that we're already garnering a lot of interest. We can offer standard rebates for in greenhouses. You know, it's 50 cents a square foot, and if you know that can include blackout curtains that do meet those qualifying specifications. So you know, again, that's something that we can also do in tandem with a custom project. So we could, you know, get rebates going for that at the same time as we're submitting for custom. Greenhouse infrared film, you know, really anything that can save energy, you know, high efficiency boilers, heat recovery, you know, VFDs for pumps to fans, and then pipe insulation as well. That's actually a standard rebate offering now. We've got $4 per linear foot, so that can be significant as well. Little case study here of a horticulture facility, a grower that switched to LED grow lights instead of HPS. You know, they reduced their energy usage by over 1 million kWh a year, you know, and were able to actually bring that project payback down to under a year with a custom incentive of $150,000. So, I mean, really amazing paybacks on some of these projects. And, you know, again, if somebody's trying to decide whether to move now or next year, I think this is pretty strong influence to get them moving sooner. Okay, so stepping back to our financing options. So many of you are probably familiar with PG&E's zero interest on bill financing. If you're not, that is, you know, PG&E's offering zero interest loans, energy efficient of this loans for efficient retrofit project and at that site. The customer, you know, does need to be PG&E. This is only going to be for retrofit projects. It's not going to be for new load. Cannabis customers do not qualify, so we'll talk in a minute about what they may qualify for in terms of financing. And you know, the equipment does need to be operational. So this is not about like replacing equipment that is fully dead. But you know, if they have aging equipment that's inefficient, that's certainly something that could be included. So how can we help you guys with on-bill financing projects? We can do all of your on-bill financing processing and paperwork for you. So we can take that administrative load off. We can do those calculations. And in fact, we do not charge any fees for this. So we can kind of be an arm for you guys of your, you know, engineering admin side and get that for review and get that all taken care of and help you push those projects through faster. So no fees, and we don't pass the new 2022 QA fees to you guys.
Hey, Susie, you're a bit cutting out. Do you mind if I take over? Susie, you're
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you sound like you're going through the warp drive or something. So I'll take over. Sorry about that, but all right. I'll take it from here for the next slide. The other option outside of on-bill financing is GoGreen through the CHEEF program. So it is a state of California administered program. It's supported by investor-owned utilities. But it is financing companies that are offering competitive interest rates for loans. So that while OBF has 0% interest, GoGreen will have a competitive interest rate tied to that. But you can get $100,000 up to $5 million of financing funding with terms up to 10 years. And another benefit of that is for GoGreen, you can actually get 30% of that financing amount can be for non-energy upgrades. So that's something different from OBF that they allow. You can actually lump in some other expenses into that outside of just that EE measure that might be considered. It's for existing buildings. You can't do new construction or new buildings type work. And some of the criteria is small businesses. That's be 100 or fewer employees with a revenue of less than 15 million and meet the certain requirements. And you can find out more information on the gogreenfinancing.com link shown here. So quick side-by-side comparison between on-bill financing and GoGreen. So what are some of the major differences? The source of capital, so for OBF, it's ratepayers provided capital, so administered by the utility. GoGreen is private financing, so that's why there's that competitive interest rate there. So OBF, 0% interest, GoGreen, you have an interest rate, but it's competitive, lower competitive rate than if you were to say go out to just run-of-the-mill like bank or something for like loans or financing. The approval process, it's the utility checks the bill payment history and approves the projects, and for GoGreen, the financing company checks the credit and issues the notice to proceed. The repayment method for OBF is through the utility bill, GoGreen is through the financing company, or direct to the lender or through the utility. Another key difference here that could be a benefit to some folks is for on-bill financing, you have to show savings at the meter. So say if you're adding load and it's an energy efficiency qualifying incentive project, if you're adding load and you don't show savings at that meter, it will not qualify for on-bill financing. But for GoGreen, it will qualify. So something to keep in mind. So we have some like say dairy customers that are adding more fans than where none are in place. They qualify because they're going with more efficient fans than the standard practice ones. But while it wouldn't qualify for OBF, it is allowed under GoGreen. Also, cannabis projects are not allowed with on-bill financing, but they are allowed with GoGreen. So there's some options there for cannabis customers, for those horticultural cannabis customers. One other offering or program, like we mentioned before, is demand-side management support. So the purpose is we really want to try to highlight demand-side management opportunities and programs that tie nicely with energy efficiency and highlight the benefits for customers. So say they're installing controls on a pump-related project, or even with lighting, with grow lighting, and they have a control system that could easily be tied into, say, a demand response program. There could be funding available through the DR program, and then also additional benefits that could tie directly in with this EE upgrade that we can help present to the customer to help sell that additional offering. So we're really trying to combine all the, outside of just energy efficiency incentives, the other offerings that we can offer to help just have a better package to offer for a customer and offering for them to review. Some of the programs that they coordinate with are peak day pricing, where you get discounted rates through the year. You get base interruptible, where you get a monthly incentive for reducing energy consumption, capacity bidding, and then there's ADR, and automated demand response, where you put in controls, and there's funding that you can get for putting in those controls that could tie in with EE projects. The larger TRC with our AESAP program, our TRC, we have other offerings we can offer customers, which is like turnkey, a photovoltaic system for agricultural customers. We call it agrivoltaics. We can offer to customers. And there's also TRC offers a turnkey renewable natural gas RNG for converting like livestock waste into clean biogas. So some other offerings that we can help with customers on. A quick plug for the PG&E tool lending library. There are tools at no cost that customers and or partners can use if there's a need. There's over 5,000 tools that you can choose from, whether it's energy consuming like data logging equipment. It could be flow meters that you strap onto a pipe to get a better idea for flow for say like pumping for water. There's you know, gas leak detector. There's a whole number of things that you could use. Photo light sensor tools for growing, all sorts of things that you could check out for free through the PG&E tool lending library. Contact information is there at the bottom left, and also know that we are also here to help to provide and facilitate these tool lending loans. So if you have something, instead of I want to let you guys know about the resource, you can go there directly, or you can just reach out to us and we're here to help for that as well. So don't feel like you have to go to them, but it's there. What's the application process with our program? For rebates, it's quite straightforward. I would say to make it as easy as possible, you can email us at agenergysavings@trccompanies.com or some other TRC contact that you might already be in touch with, or ourselves, with a paid invoice with the customer information for the location. So like the address, where they're located, a map of the location of what, say, of where the VFD is installed is very helpful, like a pinpoint of where that is. You don't have to provide it, but it makes things a lot easier and faster for the application process. It's spelled out in the requirements of the catalog, but the more information you can provide, the better. At the minimum, reach out to us and we'll help process that rebate for you and let you know what information we need, populate that application for you, and then the customer can sign it. We'll send that back to us and then we'll process that rebate for you. For custom incentive opportunities, just to make things as easy as possible, just reach out to us via phone, email, or through our website. Reach out to us as soon as possible, as soon as something's identified, so we can be involved with those email and call communications or meetings to help show program influence and guide customers to the best options that they might be out there to help really guide them to the best option and best bang for their buck with incentive dollars to help move projects forward. So there's two main forms. There is only two forms that have to be signed with our program. The first one is what we call the program participation agreement. It's basically the application. It must be signed at the beginning of a custom and project review and submission. It also needs to be submitted with a rebate project once it's installed. So we can help populate this form for you, and then ultimately the customer would sign it. Excuse me. There's also an option on the form to sign the incentive check over to a different entity. So say if a vendor or someone else is willing to accept the incentive or rebate payment directly to offset that customer and try to help sell a project for a customer, you can sign that incentive over to that person and the customer can sign off on that to lower that cost and help sell a project for a customer. So that is an option there. At a project completion, once a project's installed and we're closing it out, we also need to have a customer sign and fill out a incentive recipient contractor certification form. It basically highlights that if required, a licensed contractor has been used in compliance with permitting requirements and certifies the incentive recipient on there. So those are the two only forms we need. Once again, the PPA is at the beginning for application process for custom, and for deemed rebate projects both forms would be submitted when submitting for an application for a rebate project. All right, so we got a few minutes left and we want to leave time for Q&A, but I want to wrap up with just general contact information. Once again, Andy Gustafson, I'm the one talking right now. I'm the program manager. Here's my direct phone number and my email. If you want to reach out to me at any time with any questions, feel free to do so. We got Susie's contact information here as well. We got her phone number and email here also. There's also our general mailbox inquiry there that you can reach out to our agenergysavings@trccompanies.com with our 1833 number, and then our website. So there's also an option on our website where you can submit questions or comments through us directly through the website, but just know you can reach out to us directly myself or Susie, and we will make sure that we help guide you to the best path forward. So with that, go back, just a thank you. I'll actually back up to the contact information in case you want to write it down while we pause for a minute and see if there's any questions that we might have. Let's see, Susie or Leslie, are you seeing any? I'm not seeing any questions in the poll.
Yes.
Hi. Go ahead.
Yes, Susie, you have some questions directly to you. But actually, I can take that. So one question that we have, Andy, is can contractors have rebates paid directly to them and not the customer?
Yes. So as mentioned on that program participation agreement, there is a section on that form for the payee. So a customer would still sign that, but there's a section there for the payee, and we can update that with a different entity, whether that's, say, the installer or the vendor, whoever it is that is willing to accept that incentive or rebate directly. There is an option to do that, yes.
Awesome. Another question is, what is the turnaround on sending out rebate checks after the application is completed?
So once the application is completed, and say we have everything we need for in the rebate requirements, so we don't have to come back, ask for like additional information. Once we have everything we need and we get that submitted in for review, I would say it's typically 1 to 2 months before the customer will get the incentive, the rebate check. So if we get everything in, we get it submitted, say, hey, yep, project package was submitted for review. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, within about 2 months, I would say about 2 months, they should get the rebate check. It can, vary slightly depending on if the project was selected for CIP inspection. So for rebate projects, there is a chance that a project might get selected for inspection by PG&E. That's what we call that CIP inspection. So if that occurs, the project will be scheduled for an inspection, and that can add on to some additional time to it. But I would say typically within 1 to 2 months, the rebate check would be delivered to the customer via FedEx next day or second day, once we have everything submitted in for review to PG&E.
Okay. So what about another question that we have is, what about the June 1st requirement? How does the PG&E program expect the industry to comply in less than 2 weeks on equipment that now takes 6 to 12 months to get?
I'm taking a guess. This is about the VFD requirements, not the lighting changes for the yes. VFD one. Yeah. So like I mentioned, is with lead time, if something's been ordered prior to the notification or notice of that, I think it's reasonable for us to try to submit an exception request to allow that to still happen. But like with that notice that we tried to communicate and send out, I think it was a few weeks ago, excuse me, please just contact us as soon as possible. We want to get more information on what occurred. So if we could show that, a PO was issued or equipment was issued prior to the customer or someone even knowing about this change, I think that's a reasonable case for us to try to submit an exception request. And we have been pretty successful with exception requests prior. The main thing we want to do is, starting after the first of the month, we want to make sure that customers are being guided towards VFD units that are reducing harmonics and power quality concerns. So if we see that customers order equipment is being ordered after this date, it's going to be a hard sell to be able to honor that rebate, because we're letting everyone know, certainly can, it's in the rebate catalog, and unfortunately, like the rebate terms and conditions state where the requirements can change at any time. We did get notice out as fast as we could, but if there is any projects in the works that are of concern, just reach out as soon as possible, and we'll see what we can do to try to make things right and try to honor an exception request.
Okay, thank you, Andy. So a couple questions related to the inspections. When an inspection takes place, is it a visual or a power study?
It depends on the type of measure. If it's a rebate project, so say it's like a VFD on a well or something like that, the inspections typically include someone will go out to site and go out there and look at the location that was provided with the application to confirm that the VFD is in place and operating. If they go out there and see the VFD is not connected or it's not operating, as in not operational. So, I mean, I know pumps can click on or click off. So if it's not running, I mean, it's only, you know, we gotta have 1,000 hours per year minimum. But if it's not connected and not visually in operating condition, that could fail an inspection. It's gotta be operational. For custom incentives, that would be, depending on the measurement and verification required for the specific measure, it could require data logging, where we go out there and put data loggers on equipment to verify the energy consumption after it's installed. Those M&V requirements are tailored specific to the measure. So if it's a low incentive dollar value, you know, it might be less rigorous M&V, so maybe not true power logging, maybe it's set point verifications or something like that. But if it's a large dollar incentive, like, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars, like maybe $50,000, $100,000 or more incentive, that typically would require like 2 weeks minimum of power logging requirements and or some other logging requirements. So it really just depends for custom what the measure is. But just know for custom measures that M&V plan is predetermined and approved at the application stage before the project is approved for install. So customers and or vendors or whoever it might be will have a very good understanding of what verification will be required for those custom measures before they move forward with purchasing equipment.
Sorry. Hey, Andy, we do have some questions that were asked a little bit earlier on, and I think people were wondering if they were asking in the right chat box. So I just wanted to make sure to get those addressed.
Yeah, those are the ones I'm reading off.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So this one is more of a confirmation question about the cannabis projects. If they qualify for GoGreen / CHEEF financing, and I believe yes with GoGreen, but can you confirm for CHEEF financing?
I just realized I expanded the question box and now I can see them, so apologize about that. Yeah, so for greenhouse lighting incentives, well, it was if cannabis does qualify for GoGreen, that's the question to confirm.
GoGreen and CHEEF financing or / CHEEF.
Yeah, so GoGreen / CHEEF, it does qualify. There's only 1 or 2 lenders that are willing to do it, but there are lenders willing and able to finance cannabis projects through GoGreen. So that link that's in the presentation, and this will be uploaded and available for people to download the PDF of this presentation. All those links are in there, or if you still have trouble or want to confirm, you can reach out to us directly. But yes, cannabis projects do qualify as long as they meet the lender's requirements like credit check, things like that. So yes, confirming they do.
And there were a couple of questions here about the greenhouse lighting, the height of the mounting height of the fixtures. I can just answer that really quickly. That's regarding over the canopy. So and somebody was asking the purpose of that question. That's going to be because we're calculating the PPFD output. So the way incentives are calculated are based on, partly based on hitting that same PPFD as they would be hitting with the high pressure sodium. So we just want to know what the height of their existing fixtures are and then what the height of the new LED fixtures would be over the canopy.
Great, thanks.
We have a question about custom incentives. Will we have to demonstrate influence? Will CPUC still be reviewing applications for the custom incentives?
Yeah, so the CPUC, and I might have was trying not to take too long in my presentation, but there was a blurb on that slide about CPUC. So custom, and I want to highlight, that's a good thing to bring up, custom incentive projects can be selected for CPUC review, and that would add additional time to the review process. It's largely random, but we have noticed a trend more towards higher dollar value incentive projects seem to be getting selected more so than the lower incentive projects. And also newer technologies or type of application. So if it's a new measure that's like unique and never is, not a very common one, the CPUC like to review those as well. But yeah, so even if we have to provide program influence no matter what. And if we provide it with every project, if it gets selected, even if we provide that, it will still potentially be selected for CPUC review. it's a small percentage of projects that get selected for review, but just know that that is a possibility they could be selected. So it just goes to show the importance of the more we document and include in the get-go on that program influence, if it does get selected for CPU's review, the better chance we'll have. The smoother the process will be, and the faster the review will go with that, and the less likelihood they'll ask more questions, and they'll select it and waive it instead of selecting it and asking questions and dragging out the review process, dragging out as in extending the review process. So just shows the importance of doing our best to do the best program influence documentation we can to just make sure that, one, if it does get selected, they waive it and they don't review it because they're comfortable with it and or don't have minimal questions when it's reviewed.
So we have a couple of questions about the CEA projects. They're kind of related. How many of the approved projects were new construction? How many were retrofit? And how many have been approved for incentives in the last year?
I wouldn't know that offhand. It'd be hard to say that off the spot. I do know the CEA projects. It is a they're a big part of our pipeline. We have a lot of projects with them. There is a mix of retrofit and some added load, but most of them are retrofit in nature, or some where customers are installing lights in, say, greenhouses that didn't have lights before. Yeah, so most of them are, I would say, retrofit. But yeah, if whoever asks the question, if you want to reach out directly, I'm happy to answer that question and try to give you a little more details if that's helpful.
Great. I think we have time for one more question, Andy, and this one is, how does PG&E expect passive harmonic filters to work when the harmonics are so bad in their grid that the filter creates a resonate tank circuit that boosts the power to the point that 6 pulse VFDs trip on the voltage? And I really hope that you understand that question, Andy, because I just read it straight and I'm not an engineer.
Yeah, I think, so I get where the question, I mean, the question's basically trying to highlight the fact that there's other, you know, harmonic issues outside of just the VFDs, and that this is just one of the efforts to try to help mitigate that. But yeah, it's a very good question. I would suggest, why don't you reach out to me directly? Our engineering manager, Glenn LaPalme, he's not on this call, but he has been closely working with the power team with PG&E to help talk through these concerns. If you want to just shoot me an email with that question, I'll put you in touch and we can make sure we get that concern and question highlighted directly back with PG&E, and we can talk through that. So yeah, that's a good point. Please reach out and we'll definitely follow back on that.
And those are all the questions that we have in the chat.
Wow, right on the money at 10 o'clock. Cool. Okay, well, with that, if other questions come up, feel free to reach out. Once again, this is going to be recorded, video recorded. It'll be available, and also the PowerPoint. Leslie, by chance, has it already been inserted in the chat function or the GoToWebinar, or not? Or, you know?
No, we're going to follow up with it on an email.
Okay.
Because it's going to be along with the video recording, which needs to process a little bit.
Great. Okay, perfect. So we'll follow back with that. We'll have this as a resource and reach out. We're so happy you all dialed in. We had a great turnout, and yeah, thanks again. And we're really excited and glad that everyone on this call is interested in working with our program. So yeah, Susie, Leslie, any other last words or?
Yeah, thanks all. Please feel free to reach out directly if you have any specific questions or want to learn more. But yeah, thanks again.
Great. Well, with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Leslie, if you mind stopping the presentation, and thanks again, everyone. Have a good rest of your day. Okay, bye, everyone.